Hello, everyone. Welcome to the SCAD Savannah Film Festival, the largest university-run film festival in the U.S. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Jenelle Riley from Variety, and I'm here today with the women of Blumhouse who have put together some of our favorite and best entertainment in the last few years. Please join me in welcoming today's guests. First of all, we have the head of casting. Please welcome Terri Taylor.
Hi, everyone.
The head of physical production at Blumhouse Television. Please welcome Lisa Niedenthal. I actually wrote that out phonetically and I still managed to butcher it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. Hello, everyone.
And the executive vice president of development and production for feature films at Blumhouse Productions. Please welcome Bea Sequeira. Funny how I didn't stumble over that at all.
No, you killed it.
I didn't have it phonetically written out. Yeah. So sorry about that. I'm just really excited to be here. I'm a huge fan of the genre. I love horror. I love thrillers. I love Blumhouse. But I'm curious, before even coming to work for this company, would you have considered yourself a fan of the genre?
I wasn't. I could probably count on 5 hands the films that I actually bought tickets to go and see in the movie theater. So my relationship with Jason and collaborations with Jason, I had so much to learn and have gained such a love for the genre and a respect for the genre. And I continue to learn. So
I would say that I wasn't like complete fanatic that knew every sort of like random horror movie from 1963 or something, but I really, really appreciated the genre and try to watch everything, horror or not horror, but definitely, yeah. So I do everything, yes.
And I was the kid who loved horror and would scare myself and awake all night, all the time, but never really imagined that I'd work in this genre. But it's been really fun.
Can I ask what it was that you liked about it? I mean, I have so many reasons, but I would love to know, what attracted you to it.
Yeah, go back.
No, I was just gonna say that and when we talk a little bit about what I do, you would really get this. I am a complete control freak. And horror is the only genre that does not allow me to be one, because dumpsters are coming, and to me that's always been sort of like a challenge, and I enjoy that. That's like literally the only time that I need to let it go. So that's what attracted me to it.
The lack of control. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's I'm always looking for something different that I haven't done before, and so just trying getting into something new, and I sort of is interesting and exciting to me. And working with, there's a lot of great emerging talent in this genre, which I think is another reason why it's so exciting.
That's something I love. I feel like the genre is the star, so you can often cast people who might not be as well known.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the case for my department as well. I do have an opportunity to discover emerging talent and give them gigantic opportunities in front of the camera, and I do really appreciate that. I also appreciate the storytelling and the ability to relate to an audience with these extraordinary circumstances, and finding actors who can believably pull off those. That material is such a challenge, but also really exciting.
I would also say it's a genre where you can actually smuggle things easier. So yeah, because you can smuggle like social commentary or some other stories, and just because you like wrap them up in a haunted house, people are sort of like it's an easier way to swallow something that you were like, I'm not going to go see that movie. That seems like homework, and horror films seem so.
And who doesn't love a good scream now and then? Before we really get into the nuts and bolts of things, I am always curious about how people got to where they are. Do you mind if I ask, what was the path that brought each of you to your respective positions?
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Go for it.
I'm actually from Madrid, Spain. So I moved here to go to AFI, the American Film Institute in Los Angeles. So I did my master's in production there, and then I started working right away with a film director named Philip Noyce. So I learned a lot with him, and then I sort of like I always wanted to produce, and I figured out the best way to learn how to produce was working with that director, because you sort of learn what they have to deal with. And so I started working after Philip. I went to do Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, which are very, very low budget movies. And I learned everything that could be learned. And then after that, I took some time off because I had a baby, and I took some time off. And when I was trying to go back to work, I knew someone at Blumhouse, and then all of a sudden the job that they had was literally the job that I always wanted to do, which was both creative and be on set and be in production and sort of like shepherd the film from inception till like it's out on the theaters. And yeah, that was like sort of like this is, and my skills were what they were looking for. So it was sort of like a really great match.
Wow, perfect. Terri, for you?
My career started as a pivot. I was working in a totally different, on a different career path. I was working in architecture, and I was inspired by my husband. He was my boyfriend at the time, who was a film student and working in film. And my very first job was working on a film called Malice that Aaron Sorkin wrote. And the casting director hired me as a casting intern. And I was not one of those people who actually really thought about who worked in movies, both behind the camera and in front of the camera. I obviously had crushes on actors, but I wasn't thinking about it and logging it and learning it. I wasn't a student of it. But the moment I started working, on Malice, I stayed on that film through production. I actually got to work as an office PA and then as a set PA, and I often refer to it as my own small mini version of film school. I then proceeded through one interesting opportunity to the next. I got to work in development for a company called Cruise Wagner Productions, which was Tom Cruise's production company with his former agent Paula Wagner. And then David Rubin, who's the current president of the Academy, he's a fellow casting director. He hired me to be his casting assistant, and Debbie Zane was his associate, and we became fast friends. And not long after that, Debbie went out on her own, and I became Debbie's associate for 8 years. And in this profession of casting, it is a true mentorship, I think. And I consider Debbie my mentor. And it's like the one way to learn this craft is by studying somebody who does it really well. So, and
yeah, nobody's better than Deborah's. I have to call her Deborah because I don't know her, but she's Debbie to you.
Yeah. And she's incredibly talented, as is David. And and that was my journey. I met Jason in 2010 when I was an executive at Paramount, and we started working on Paranormal Activity 2 together. And we have done numerous films together. I worked for him as an independent casting director for 2 years, doing about 6 films over that time before I went in-house in late 2013, early 2014, as the head of casting for Blumhouse. I oversee television for the most part, although I am starting to cast more television projects. And I with my team of 3 other strong women, we cast all the movies for Blumhouse Film.
It's unusual, isn't it, for a production studio like this to have in-house casting?
I absolutely, and I think that my job is hybrid. I'm part executive, I'm part department head as a casting director, and back in 2014, I don't think that anybody else held a position quite exactly like this position, where I'm afforded this opportunity to remain invested in the projects creatively by casting them and continuing to be in the room with actors and work day in and day out with the filmmakers, the directors and the producers, but then also have a seat at the table where we are, talking about, like, with Bea, like when an idea is just a germ and we get to hear, projects that are being pitched, in development. It's a great job and I'm so grateful for it. Yeah.
And Lisa, what about for you? How did you end up at Blumhouse?
Well, I started my path, because I knew how to type on a typewriter way back in the day, and got a job in a production office, and really just worked my way up in production from, production coordinator and set PA and, all of the jobs, non-union ADing and everything, whatever needed to be done. And then I was on a film. I was living in Boston at the time, and I was on a film called The Witches of Eastwick, which was a show a giant movie at the time with a lot of huge talent. And I was the production secretary, but I was a local hire. And the movie was going to move back to LA to do all the stage work. And I went to the production manager and said, hey, I found my calling. I know this is what I want to do. I'm going to move to LA in about 6 months. Can I call you for a reference? And he said, well, if you can get to Los Angeles on Tuesday, this was Labor Day weekend, a Saturday of Labor Day weekend. If you can get to Los Angeles on Tuesday, you can stay on this movie. So I literally bought a one-way ticket, put my very few things on a plane, crashed on the floor of the assistant production accountant on the movie, and finished the movie at Warner Brothers, and thereby met one of my first mentors, a guy named Sam Mercer, who I adore, but ended up at Disney for a few years on staff in feature production, then at Viacom and Showtime, and working my way up as a production exec, and then eventually started producing on my own, and partnered for doing a lot of things, line producing, then partnered for several years with Emilio Estevez, again with Bea. I think it's a great way to learn how to be a producer is to work with the director. He happens to be a writer, director, actor, and producer too in his own right. And we many years. We have a long-term collaboration, but we weren't very prolific. We've only made 4 movies in 18 years. But in the meantime, I always did other things and produced and consulted and was doing some consulting for Entertainment One, where I met Marcy Weissman and Jeremy Gold doing Sharp Objects. And they asked me to come over and join the television team about 2.5 years ago. So.
Wow, that's great. You guys all started off on some pretty great projects. Mostly, I hear about people who have to work on no budget films and Malice. That's a huge, Witches of Eastwick. These are huge movies.
The little Spider-Man movies. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Blumhouse has developed and produced so many great stories over the years, really ranging from sci-fi to supernatural to thrillers. I know this is a broad question, but where do you generally find material? Is it scripts that are solicited, filmmakers who bring them in, and what sort of makes a movie right for Blumhouse?
So, we are very filmmaker centric. So for us, the best way to get projects is when they come with a filmmaker. We have all these, meetings and general meetings, and we're always sort of trying to figure out hey, what do you want to do next? Is there a script? And so if a filmmaker that we want to work with bring us something, that's very easy, right? That's oh, we really want to make this work. There are other times that literally, we met with writers and we get other scripts submitted or the agent submission. In that case, we really like to get the script and then think instantly about the filmmaker. So we will again, go to that repertory company of filmmakers that we have or that we want to work with. And it's okay, we're going to send it to these people and see if they want to do it. And so that's literally how we get most of the projects. And, I get asked the question of what is the right project for Blumhouse? And I always sort of say the same thing is just it needs to be different. It needs to have something that we haven't seen before. And it doesn't mean that you've done 20 movies about a haunted house. It's yes, maybe. But the way that a movie about a haunted house is different is if it's a different POV or if it's a different point of entry to it, or it's saying something new. And that's what we want to do. And I know the term elevated horror gets thrown around, and I feel sometimes it gets thrown around because people don't want to say that they're doing a horror movie because it's oh, doing horror. It's no. So we just want to do good stories. And what I was telling you about the smuggling before is sometimes we look at the movies as well, this would be a Sundance movie if there were not spirits in it or ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
So you take the ghosts away, and all of a sudden it's like, there you go. That's what it is. And I feel like that's how we find most of our projects. Then there's like, other obviously books or articles. And although the weirdest thing that just happened to me this week is I might have found a project thanks to a tweet. So somebody,
What?
I know it's crazy. I mean, like, I'm always like trying to figure it out. I was like, but somebody tweeted something that I thought it was incredibly interesting. And I did something that I never do, which is like, I contacted them, and I don't know this person at all. But I do know that, like, she's a writer and a comedian, but I did reach out and I met with her, and I don't know if anything is going to come out of it, but I was just like, I could not stop thinking about it. I was like, that is a great idea. So so I think you can close your eyes. You have to be always trying to find something. So
I had on the TV side, I'm not in the development part of it, but very closely working with that team. And I mean, we're looking at podcasts, we're looking at obviously books and other materials, things that showrunners bring us, and that's very similar, but really I'm most excited about some of the projects we have in development now that are coming from podcasts and other medium that I think are really, really interesting.
I'm so fascinated by this tweet story, and I'm guessing you probably can't go into more detail.
I wish I could, but
okay.
I had a meeting with her yesterday, so I don't know if anything is going to come out of it. But I was so excited because and the other way, not that I'm always on Twitter, because I'm not, but other times, like, some writer tweets, I have this horror script, I don't know what to do with it, and I was just like, let's email the agent immediately and see what that script is. And it's just like a random. You just have to, again, be open to ideas. So
wow.
But when this is over, in secret, I can tell you.
Oh, I'm so excited. Sorry, everyone else. I can't tell you. Terri, from the casting perspective, is there something specific you're looking for when someone comes into that room? I mean, obviously you're looking for great actors, but is there something that makes them a perfect fit for Blumhouse?
I don't think that there's one specific ingredient that makes them a perfect fit for Blumhouse. It's always going to be material and character driven. And the filmmakers, obviously, their vision for the film or the piece of, the series that we're casting. I think that when an actor comes in to audition, you notice bold choices and obviously brave auditions and grounded auditions, and there's all sorts of things that we latch onto. And I think I mentioned, previously, these are, sometimes the situation, our stories are very extreme or extraordinary, and they have to, an actor needs to be able to keep it grounded and relatable. Yes, you are fighting with a demon in the vent, but you have to make us somehow, relate to that. Like, I would absolutely do the same thing if I were fighting a demon in the vent. So we're looking for actors who have that ability to, just keep it grounded, connect, find a way in, brave enough to take chances, to go for it.
I am really looking forward to seeing Demon in Event next year. That sounds awesome.
Not to give anything away.
I actually want to talk a little bit more about filmmaker relationships and the development process. And let's look at a couple of things Blumhouse has worked on recently. You had a huge hit earlier this year with The Invisible Man, which came from director Leigh Whannell. How did that sort of develop, and how did you attach the below the line talent? Did Leigh bring it to you? Did you go to him?
So, well, Leigh's family, right? Like, he's done all the Insidious movies, and we did Upgrade. And I had the honor of doing Upgrade and Invisible Man with him, both in Australia. And he's a genius, and he understands horror in a way that very few people do. He also loves film, sort of like in the same way I do. So we're very geeky on set, and we're so excited about the things. And like, some of the crew are looking at us like, why are they so happy? And I always say, like, because we're making a movie. I don't know, we're making a movie. That seems to me like not everybody gets to do this. And so because we shot in Australia, we used the same DP that we had used on Upgrade, Stefan Duccio, and then some of the other crew, they were just Australian department heads that we met with, and then we really, liked, and they brought the right take to the movie. In terms of like the Invisible Man, I mean, for him it was, I think that he got presented sort of like the what would be a good Invisible Man movie, and he had sort of like, now thinking back is like, obviously, but it was sort of like, why don't we see it from the point of view of the victim, which is like, it's actually brilliant because we haven't seen it. And it was just like, he knows exactly what he wants, so it's very easy to work with him, because there's not like, the decisions are made very fast, and he actually, put together this sort of like mood book and like reel and stuff like that, and I looked at it, and I was like, oh, I know the movie you were making, so great, let's do this. So it was very it was great. It was one of those great experiences, and I think I was talking the other day about like how there's some movies where there's always something that is just like, like the thing that doesn't work out. And in this one, everything worked out to the point like every cast member, and that's thanks to Terri, was incredible and nice people. So we had a blast in Sydney. But it was just, it was one of those magical movies from beginning to end. And I remember us getting the phone call that the movie, that the release date was moving a little bit, was being pulled, and we were like, oh no, we're not going to have time. We were like very stressed out. And then it happened to be the best thing that ever happened to us, because we were literally the last movie that was in movie theaters before the shutdown. So that stress that we had before, all of a sudden I was like, well, we all made the right decision there. So it was one of the good movies that I've worked on, for sure.
And you mentioned the amazing cast. Elizabeth Moss obviously earned raves for her performance. Yeah. Terri, can you talk about how that cast sort of came together? I mean, especially casting someone like Oliver Jackson Cohen, who is the Invisible Man. Like, in an audition like that, are you like, there's so much physicality. Are you asking him to like, move around? Or is it all on the page?
We actually didn't have that luxury because we weren't even in the same country with Oliver when the process started. He auditioned on a tape, and then we Zoomed with him, and so we were restricted. But I think Oliver is so talented and so charismatic, and has this danger deep inside, and we needed both. And he was able. I mean, it was effortless for him to kind of convince us through a screen that he was the Invisible Man. And it was one of those auditions where it came in and then the bar was set, and we continued to explore a few other actors, and we kept coming back to Oliver.
Yeah. And I want to let everyone know he's a really nice guy in real life, because he tends to play these toxic men.
Yeah. And one thing, we're talking about physicality, and it's interesting because in theory, he was not going to be on the green suit doing anything, because we were going to have sort of like a stunt double. But we all fell in love with each other, and he was like, hey, and can I just say the line? Like the few times that the Invisible Man talks to Elizabeth, he was there wearing a green suit, and it was just like, just because like, I think that we all felt it, like the movie was special, and we all wanted to like be there along the way. So yeah, it's interesting.
Lisa, over on the TV side, Blumhouse is so busy right now. You have Into the Dark on Hulu, now on Amazon Prime. You have Welcome to the Blumhouse, and then worlds away from that, The Good Lord Bird is on Showtime. Without any, I mean, it's kind of creepy in its own right, but but not supernatural. I'm sort of curious. You have diverse filmmakers behind the scenes. You have diverse projects. How do you sort of go about choosing those projects and the people you're going to work with?
Well, I mean, I think it's the same process, really, that Bea was talking about. It's just putting the word out, really, in the community that we're really looking for more inclusive team. And I think when we set up Welcome to the Blumhouse, that was at the very inception of the project, when we're sitting at Amazon pitching the whole concept. And it was the creative team, it was me, it was really the entire group that we're going to get this thing done. That was one of the things we said from the start. We wanted to have underrepresented talent at every level that we could possibly do. And so that they loved that, and they embraced it, and the word got out in the community, and we just started, we got a lot of material in that way from people we probably never would have known about had they not proactively reached out, known about the project, and come to us. But we always try to lean into that. And I think part of the challenge is really getting more talent in the pipeline so that they have that they are ready for the kind of challenges that we might be able to provide. But that's something we do it from the director, writer, all the way through every member of the crew.
Good Lord Bird has an amazing ensemble and some actors who I haven't seen before. Terri, you found this young actor, Joshua Caleb Johnson, who is, or did you find him? I should ask.
My colleague, Kim Coleman, discovered Joshua, after an extensive search. Obviously, he is the center of this mini series, and he is so talented and such a lovely human being. Yeah.
Can you sort of talk about, your favorite recent casting discoveries? I know there's probably so many, but
I know, and discovery is such a hard word to kind of latch onto, because it's not like we go into the casting laboratory and mold them and shape them and put them out into the world. They usually are not very often are we just kind of, are they minding their own business and like at karate class and we walk in and we find a kid? Like that's the unusual example of a discovery. Usually it's someone who has been auditioning and playing very small parts or participating in school plays. And I'm racking my brain to try and think of like someone who is like a true discovery, someone who we've given like their very first job to. Bea.
Bea has someone.
Yes. I mean, she
am I being modest?
You're being modest. Yeah. Like, because first of all, you can cast families like nobody else. Like people is like, oh yeah, they're for sure a family.
Yeah.
So like youngsters, but I have to say that there's two people that come to mind. One is Betty Gabriel.
Oh yeah, Betty Gabriel.
Sorry, but yes, like who is also family because she's done what, 4?
She's absolutely. It's so funny, but I wouldn't take responsibility for her as a discovery. I would say she was a working actress and graduated from Juilliard, and we helped give her the job of a lifetime to launch. So yeah.
And then I will say Sander also in The Keeping Hours, which is a kid, but I feel like there's other.
Yeah, he wants to have a nice, he's a working young actor. Yeah.
Can I ask, where did you find Betty Gabriel?
Is also someone that we've worked with. She is a talented actress who's thriving now. She just did the Troop Zero, and but she has worked with Blumhouse. And
where did you find Betty Gabriel? Was she someone who had come through your office before?
Yes, she had auditioned for us one project before we started Get Out, and a colleague of mine had hired her. God, I can't remember the name of the title of the film, but she was not long out of drama school, and it was one of those auditions. In our process with Jordan, number one, he loved the audition process, as did I, and as we met actors, we put pictures of the actors that came in up on the wall. And very early in the process, Betty Gabriel came in, Marcus Henderson came in. We started adding, beside them and below them, like as actors started to come in, and then pictures would start to disappear. But Betty and Marcus's pictures never came off the wall. And soon I started to notice that Jordan was trying to direct actors who were coming in to kind of capture what Betty and Marcus had done in their auditions, like what they had brought, that little special sauce, that choice, that bold choice that made them stand out. And eventually we got to the place where it's like, well, we can't deny it anymore. we're looking at, you know, this cast that we have been trying to fill out for weeks now, and these 2 pictures haven't come down the entire process, and let's make some offers. So
I should mention there's another Blumhouse film that came out just this week with The Craft Legacy. Can you talk about the production process with this? Because I know the original Craft was such a beloved cult hit for so many years, and bringing it to a new generation and finding some of these fresh faces, I would love to hear about.
Well, from the development point of view, it was terrifying because you're, you know, and you need to like, and you know, Zoe will say this, you need to like put aside the other movie and just keep on going and making the one that you have. But I feel like the biggest success of I don't know.
It's a ghost.
I apologize. Someone is ringing my doorbell.
Oh, go ahead if you need to get it. Yeah.
The biggest success of the movie is what Terri did finding these 4 girls. Because without them working, the movie doesn't work. And not only the 4 girls, but the rest of the cast too, obviously. But yeah, Terri should talk about the 4 girls because they're magical together. Yeah,
they are magical, and Zoe's script was very specific. She really drew characters that were very unique and not pedestrian, and not going to be like every young actor that you might have in to audition. And so the search was extensive and specific, and it obviously kind of hinged on the character of Lily. We wanted to find Lily first, and I think that when Kaylee came in the process, I think, you know, obviously we were looking for 4 witches, which she definitely is, you know, but she was also an angel. Like there was something, it was magic. Like we were like, she is a magical angel. And she had already come in. I mean, the character of Lily was actually scripted as having shaved her head. But when Kaylee came in to audition, she already had this really short, it obviously wasn't a shaved head, but she had cut all her hair off. And it was magic. It really helped us to visualize who Lily could be. And Lily was her. She had to play, you know, she was our girl. And we were able to, you know, assemble girls to work with her in a chemistry read format. And it was not easy, and we mixed and matched, and the proof was in that final foursome. You know, obviously the search for Lourdes was extensive and very challenging. Zoe Luna, who's a transgender young woman, this was her first real job. I mean, especially in a lead role, and to see her kind of, you know, just kind of work with these other 3 women. Lovey has, you know, a decent amount of experience. She is building a beautiful resume, and the 3 of them really, you know, embraced Zoe, and I think they all, you know, bolstered one another. The 4 women. It was pretty magical.
We have a lot of people in the chat, and they want to talk about why do we enjoy this feeling of uneasy or stressed when we're watching these movies and shows? I mean, there isn't really a particular question, but do you guys have any theories on why we like to scare ourselves?
I think it does go back to like there's a totally time that you cannot control it. Like you don't know where something is going to come from. And there are also situations, like I think Terri was saying, where like when you cast somebody, you need to believe that like they're reacting to a demon, but they're also like not being. So I just feel like there's situations that hopefully are not common. So you can, you know, sort of like it's a little bit of imagination. But I also think it is one of the best things to do in a movie theater, like that experience of horror movie in a movie theater. That is what I really miss, because that sort of communal experience, well, both comedies and horror, which they're more similar than people want to think. They're all about literally, if you don't have the timing, you don't have your movie. But that communal experience, I still remember, and this is not one of our movies. Well, I can talk about 2, but The Quiet Place was one of the best experiences I've ever had. And then Get Out. That's when we knew Get Out was going to Get Out. Is when we saw it. I loved the movie, and I had seen it a million times, and then we saw it with an audience. And I remember Jordan Sean and I sitting in the back row of a test screening on the bridge in Los Angeles, and all of a sudden we were like, are they gonna go for it? And it was such an incredible reaction that we were like, oh, okay, they are. Okay, this is good. We're gonna be good. So so I think that that I don't know, like being scared is good because it just gets you going, and like it doesn't make allow you to be complacent. I think it is. You have to be like on it. So
yeah, it can mask, the everyday fears that you're dealing with,
Right.
whether it's a presidential election or climate change or whatever is really kind of stressing you out in your day-to-day life. You go to watch something scary with a community in a theater, it lets you escape.
It's very cathartic, I think, more than other films. Yeah.
Well, Lisa, Blumhouse has put on so much great TV content, and I know it's because we're also coming up on Halloween, but I also do think we're in an uneasy time. I don't know if that timing was intentional.
Well, I'm not sure I understand your question, other than I've been in there for 2 years. The television company is only 4 years old, and it takes time to build, and so I think we're on that uptick of a lot of great stuff that we've been working on for a long time, and we're just reaping the benefits of a lot of hard work and collaboration. And there's some great stuff. I mean, Into the Dark is, we've just wound down the production of that, but boy, that's been an amazing journey of 24 movies in essentially, not counting COVID, about 26 months, to churn out movies in that volume that are all interesting, a lot of different, new talent. And what I love about that one, especially too, is that we've crossed vision companies, and we'll have somebody in one of those movies, and then they'll say, even as a director or as an on-camera talent, and all of a sudden the film company will be going like, hey, that's a great, new person. We should collaborate, look for something for them. So I love that part of the company too, in what we do. It's been really fun.
Well, and talk about sort of sneaking messages in, or what some people call like eat your vegetables movies, where you can kind of like, I don't want to say trick people. Into the Dark has had so many episodes. The last year's 4th of July themed episode about immigration was so powerful. Yeah. I don't know if that's something you purposely seek out, or it's just a happy coincidence.
I think it's all of the above. I mean, I think we're attracted to things that get us thinking on different levels. And, Gigi Saul Guerrero, who directed that, she did an episode of the Purge series for us too. And now she's got the last of the Welcome to the Blumhouse Bingo she's going to direct, and it's her concept. So, really excited about that and continuing the relationships in that way.
It really does feel like a family. I know that's a little cliche to say, but you guys do return to the same actors and filmmakers. And I get the feeling that people don't want to leave once they're a part of the family.
Yeah, well, I think that's from all the way across the board, but below the line too. I have, a lot of below the line people who I talk to, department heads and others who are really excited about working with us, DPs. I mean, and we like to do two things. We have a stable of people we love and trust and who get us. And then we have the new talent we want to bring in and make them part of that family. And I think we've been really successful at that. I love that part about it.
Yeah. And when I said they don't want to leave, I didn't mean it in a creepy way, since we're discussing
don't let them leave. No.
Yeah, I swear that's not what I meant at all. We actually are going to go to some of the student questions. First, we have a student named Chloe, and then we have a student named Brandon, and they're going to ask you some questions. There's Chloe. Take it away.
Hi there. My name is Chloe, and I'm an MFA candidate in film and television production. And my question was kind of relating to the industry, sort of the history of the industry. So historically speaking, it's been hard for women to break into film and television as well as horror. And I was wondering, how do you foresee this changing in the future, if at all? And can you speak to how Blumhouse supports your involvement and perspective as a woman in the creative process?
I'm going to take it. I think that change is going to happen when people that can make those decisions are in the position to make, are, you know, meaning like, that if everybody in the development team, production team are men, maybe it's not as easy. But if you have some diversity, then it's, you know, like you can bring stuff to the table. And since I've been at Blumhouse, it's going to be up to 6 years now. I've always, to me, it's been a priority personally, because I think, you know, I think they're really interesting filmmakers that happen to be women and that are women, and then like that, they're making really great horror movies and genre. And I think that, to me, it's a goal, like to make, you know, make sure that we make as many movies made by women that are, you know, because I think that there's this stigma of like, oh, women don't like genre. And it's like, I don't think that's true. I think that maybe you don't like genre, or you know what I mean? Like that is not, you know, you're saying that. And also because I think it's still because the definition of genre, some people are so, think it's such a, they basically think it's like a slasher movie, a small slasher movie with some gore. It's like, no, genre is such a wide variety of things. And yeah, I mean, to me, it's a priority. And I know to everybody at Blumhouse to give an opportunity to people that haven't had it for a while, just because, you know, I mean, I think it's 2020, you know what I mean? Like we can't, things need to keep on moving.
And the three of us are here representing the women of Blumhouse, but when we sit around our conference table in our film movies, our film meetings, there are 50% female executives sitting around the table. So we have, you know, and the same for television, Lisa, wouldn't you agree? And I do feel like we have loud voices and we can really start and continue to affect change in regards to empowering women, both as executives, department heads, writers, directors, and obviously telling more stories with female leads.
And I think the loud voice is the key. We have very loud voices. We will make sure that those voices are heard in case like somebody is not listening.
Right. Yeah. And then I'm also asking a question on behalf of my classmate, Christina Hiller. She is a BFA in film and television. Unfortunately, she cannot be here with us today, but she wanted to know, since these days of COVID, filmmakers are having to be creative with how they're filming while remaining conscious of the crews and their own health. And so how are you handling it now versus before on your smaller budget films?
Well, I'll jump into that. And, you know, we were shut down on the television side right in the middle of one of our films on Into the Dark and one of our Welcome to the Blumhouse films. And we had to sort of regroup and rethink and obviously follow protocol. We created protocols, we followed protocols, but we also had to creatively look at the scripts and say, okay, are there scenes that we really can't accomplish in the way we would want to because of COVID? Are there intimate scenes? Are there physical scenes, you know, stunts, all those kind of things? So we definitely looked at what our options would be. And we even leaned into some animation on one of our projects that we wouldn't have done before on our unscripted side. And so I think it's really just opening ourselves up to those conversations and the collaboration. And I always feel this is true in every sense of problem solving when it comes to production. And that is that the end product is actually better because you have some kind of constraints on you. In my own personal experience, it's never been different. That forces you to go to places that you wouldn't have gone. You know, if you always have money to solve a problem, you're not going to get that. It's not just going to be as good as it could be if you use other means. And so we always, number one, safety was always a priority, and we did that. But we also looked at other ways, camera angles, you know, and again, all of our team were part of that collaboration. How are we going to shoot this? How many people can we have on set? How can we rethink the whole approach? And I think we've done it very successfully. And I will say we just saw the director's cut of Madres, which is one of our Welcome to the Amazon titles. And it was the one that it was produced 100% during COVID. and 2 hurricanes in New Orleans. And you would, if you watch this film, it is amazing, very strong first cut. You would never know that this was a COVID, affected film. And I think, again, it's really about thinking creatively and collaborating, and you can still meet all the protocols. It's totally doable.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We also have a question coming up from Sierra. Sorry, I misspoke earlier. Brandon is the person helping out behind the scenes, but Sierra is going to ask the question. There she is. Hi.
Hi, you guys. My name's Sierra Lawson. I'm a second-year grad student in the dramatic writing program, and I am currently an intern at Blumhouse on the TV side. So, yay! So my question is kind of piggybacking off of what Chloe said. As a woman working in horror, do you ever experience any kind of imposter syndrome? And if so, how do you combat that?
No. I would never be here. That's not important. Like, no, it's just like, we need to, like, again, like, keep on moving forward, make sure that we are heard, and make people uncomfortable. That's what's about. You know what I mean? Like, you have to, and this is very specific to the craft, but, like, there's this period blood in the craft, and, like, you see in the trailer, it's like people are like, oh, wait, nobody was like, you know what? Let's just keep on moving. There's, like, we need to move forward and make sure that we're all going together and not question that. Embrace it and actually learn from it and project it and all that stuff, but never think, oh, I don't belong here. Maybe, of course you do.
That's so awesome.
But it is a journey. It's not like, I can't say that I started my career with that mentality. I definitely, as my career grew and the more success I found, I feel like I can say I definitely struggled with imposter syndrome. Like, the more opportunity, I needed to build that confidence. And I've embraced it, and I embrace greatness. What is the Michelle Obama quote? I don't want to misquote her, but it's something like that. Accept greatness, embrace greatness. And we belong here, and let's embrace it.
Absolutely. That is so awesome. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a couple questions from the audience chat. We have one from Amanda, who's a dramatic writing grad student. She loves The Invisible Man and wanted to ask if you could speak to the importance of stories, especially in the horror genre, that center around women and their struggles.
Yes. I mean, obviously there's a whole subgenre called like the women in peril. That for years it was, we were just the victims, and we never fought back. Somebody always came to save us. And I think that there was a moment where, like, I don't think so. I think we can save ourselves. We can still be in peril, but we can fight back. And I think that we need to make sure that we are true to whatever struggles the protagonist is going through. And I don't think we should sort of like become a trope. I feel like there's things sometimes the female tropes are very are used way too much without really digging in and sort of figuring out exactly what the issues are. But I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot of more movies or with, yes, women in peril, but women fighting back, or actually not, women might not be in peril. So I think that there's there's a lot of history and a lot of wealth of struggle to pull from, and those stories are always going to resonate with a lot of people. And surprisingly, one of the biggest audience members for horror movies are women, and they're women, and they're like teenagers. I think that we have a responsibility to, like, put out stories that are gonna be exciting for them, and they're gonna be inspiring and very scary. I think that I think it's evolving. That's what I'm sort of trying to say. Yeah.
Over on the TV side, you have Evil Eye right now on Welcome to the Blumhouse, which looks at the woman in peril angle from so many different angles, which is one of the things that I love about it. I know I don't need to offer anyone watching recommendations because you've probably seen them all, but just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, and multi-generational, and that's a really interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a question. Forgive me if I butcher your name. I think it's Yesenia. They are a junior major production design, set design. What's the best way to get in your foot in the door? Sorry, this is a little chat box. If you want to work on a specific genre, like Blumhouse does, is it best to work on smaller productions that are horror related, or better to have a diverse portfolio?
Take the job you can get and work and work and work.
Work and yeah.
Yeah, because even you're learning on every single one, whether it's genre related or not. And I mean, obviously, you want to take steps that are going to get you to your goal. But to me, I think you work and learn and meet people and network. And that's a huge part of it as well, is building up that network of relationships and fostering those relationships in the business.
Anyone else?
No, I mean, doing a good job regardless.
Yeah,
I mean, like, if you're
absolutely.
going to be a production designer and a set dresser, start being an RPA and learn from everybody. And when it's your time, then when you're at a position where you can choose whatever genre you want to work on, then that's when you make the decision. Until then, try to learn as much as you can, regardless of what the movie is. For sure.
We have a question from Kobe. It's a question for all the panelists. What's your personal favorite horror film, Blumhouse or otherwise?
My favorite one, non-Blumhouse, is Rosemary's Baby, which I feel is a classic.
That's a good one.
And then if I had to choose a Blumhouse, not that is that if I had watched that as an audience member, I know I would have loved. It is Get Out, for sure.
Yeah. I think I love Rosemary's Baby too, though, Bea. But I think Psycho for me is like that's just the kind of horror that I enjoy. And I'll do a plug for a Blumhouse Television, which is a different kind of scary, but I think Sharp Objects just nails that sort of creepy psychological stuff, which I love personally.
Yeah. The Shining. I think I would say The Shining.
Yes.
Is my favorite non-Blumhouse horror film. The acting is amazing. And I'm with Bea. Get Out.
I was looking because I have a Shining face mask, but it's way over there that I was going to show off.
And we did have a conversation recently about like what was the scariest Blumhouse movie, and along with Sarah and Allie, who part of my department, and we all said that we thought Sinister was the scariest Blumhouse movie. And then an article
came out like a couple of days later saying that they had sort of like tested and that it was. And I remember I wasn't working at Blumhouse, and I remember watching the movie and saying like, I really need to leave this movie theater because I'm getting sick. Like, I don't know and that's a very scary movie.
They like put heart monitors on audience members and tested where their heart went when they watched. I mean, it was a list of like 25 films, and like Sinister and Insidious were like 1 and 2, where the spiked heart rate was the highest.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ethan Hawke was a SCAD Savannah guest recently, and he talked about kind of how proud he is of that movie. I love that. We have a question. You sort of addressed this before, but Eve has a question about how do you feel as women working with films or shows in a genre that sometimes can fall into having stereotypical female characters? Do you feel a responsibility as women to make sure the films you work on don't mishandle those female characters?
100%. And I'm very vocal, and I will not stop being vocal. And there was a point where we were getting scripts where, and that's one of the, you will hear about the trope of women being assaulted. And I was like, there's literally no need for this person to, like, I don't want to, like, why are we doing this? And I became very vocal about it. And I am. And I think that's the only way to do it, is like, you just can't let it go. There's no reason to go.
Right. And it's more interesting when you're not leaning into that stuff anyway. So it's better storytelling. Yeah.
We don't want to put that out there in the world, those kind of stories. And we are vocal. We speak up.
I always look forward to a Blumhouse movie for so many reasons, but one is that I know I'm not going to see like a scantily clad woman running in heels. Sometimes you have to run in heels. I do get that, but you've managed to avoid that so far. Kind of a fun question. Outside of the horror genre, what scares you?
I'll start really quickly. I mean, to me, what's scary is sort of like the old fear itself. I get scared by irrationality. I'm a very logical, rational person, which is probably why I'm in production and the producer that I am. But irrationality scares me.
I think what scares me is lack of empathy that people will lose, that not relate to people that are having a hard time, or like, I don't know, they see images and they're not, it's like, I can't believe how people can, go about their days. That's, and of course it definitely is related to what's happening in the world right now. But I feel like that's, to me, is like when we lose our humanity, then what's left to do. Basically.
Extremism and irrational empathy, that trifecta is terrifying to me. Irrational, extreme people who lack empathy, or
that's triple threat. Yeah, exactly.
And finally, are there projects you can talk about? What are you sort of working on now that you're most looking forward to showing the world?
Yes, I can. It's been announced. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
I'm excited about Wolfman. So that's what
I'm excited about Wolfman and Firestarter. We're going to reboot Firestarter with Zac Efron, and Keith Thomas is directing.
I'm excited about a couple of the projects that we're doing around true crime. One is called A Thing About Pam, which is a Dateline story of a true crime murder, and then the other one is from, as I said, a podcast we're in development. Again, these things are not immediate, but something called oh God, I just had a
Horrors of Dolores Roach. Is that? No.
That's yes. Okay. Horrors of Dolores Roach, which is also is a scripted podcast. So it's a little bit like Sweeney Todd, and super interesting, set in Brooklyn, and it's just a great project. So.
Are we allowed to talk about the casting of Wolfman? Because I believe Ryan Gosling is set to play. It's okay. So, I mean, I know I'm not breaking anything, but is that something where you guys went to him, he came to you? It was sort of a package.
I think he was already there, and I think that he had been attached for a long time, for sure. Yeah.
I do love, like I mentioned, Ethan Hawke earlier. I do think that in the business, the best actors and the best directors, they have a massive respect for the horror genre, even though, and that might not be reflected in reviews. Although, let's be honest, everyone loves horror films to some extent. Everyone likes being scared.
But the fact that when Ethan can do something, like The Purge and all these, and then come and do The Good Lord Bird, that's what I love. I mean, that's fantastic. He's a talent.
I forgot he's family from The Purge as well, of course.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap, but we are going to show a cool sneak peek of what's to come from Blumhouse. I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. Everyone take a look at this great sizzle reel. Enjoy the final days of the film festival, and everyone have a great Halloween.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything on your mind? Troubling thoughts? Remember, you just say to yourself, I run my mind, it does not run me. Say it with me.
I run my mind, it doesn't run me.
Feeling positive?
I run my mind,
Nervous?
it doesn't run me.
Everyone thinks you're crazy.
Help me. I run my mind.
Positive?
If you do something really bad, how do you undo that?
You just need to remember who you are again.
Music is a blood sport. It's sacrifice.
If you're not careful, bad things could happen.